I don't think Meghan's buying it, Kosher, and I don't think there's much on the inside. There's talk that the royals are going to sue over this episode now. Would you recommend they do that, Kosher?
Hello, welcome back to the Catella Bubble, the show where we talk about a bunch of different things, but it always comes back to the royal family somehow. As a little bit of a bonus show, I wanted to go over some of the media that came out as a response to the Harry and Meghan South Park episode, which I critiqued in my last video, South Park and Satire. So as I mentioned in that last video, the Harry and Meghan episode, The Worldwide Privacy Tour, was an easy excuse for the media to use as more fodder to mock Harry and Meghan, which, if you think about it, is not usually how satire works. Like, I don't remember the British aristocracy fawning over how hilarious and epic a modest proposal was, but I digress. Not only was it easy clickbait to write articles saying, hey, this episode of South Park exists, as if that's news, but like I said at the end of my last video, it also spawned baseless rumors that Harry and Meghan were planning on suing South Park for their portrayal. Now, I think the tabloids that started this rumor knew exactly what they were doing, because if there's anything that ruffles the feathers of South Park stans, it is anyone insinuating that someone would not only criticize Parker and Stone and their my free speech defense, but especially this idea of trying to take any legal action that could put my free speech in jeopardy. And I would be on their side of that debate 100% if this wasn't obviously fake news. I am a red-blooded American woman who obviously supports the idea of criticizing those in positions of power, but one, as someone who has watched the entire episode, I don't find that their criticisms of Harry and Meghan made any sense unless you are conspiracy-brained. And two, there is absolutely no evidence that they would respond to this episode at all, considering that the images and likenesses of royal family members have been used and reused in countless media portrayals. It strains credulity to believe for even 1 second that one mediocre South Park episode would prompt a reaction from Harry and Meghan when, the Prince or the Windsors hadn't. Before Harry and Meghan were able to shut down this obvious bullshit rumor with their PR team, so many dumbasses had to throw in their 2 cents, and that's what we're here to examine today. The bad takes to obvious misinformation and dumb journalists that do not want to engage with the actual definition of satire. So as a bonus treat, that is the rabbit hole that we will be descending down into today. Let's go! Let's get started. I'm ready. Hey, really quick note from me from the future. I have a new TikTok. Go follow me on that TikTok. There's going to be a lot of content over there. Okay, thanks. Bye! All right, the first article I want to look at today is from The Independent. There's actually 2 independent articles I want to look at because The Independent, went all out on this clickbait bullshit. So this is their article from the 21st of February, 2023, right after the episode came out, entitled South Park Roasts Harry and Meghan in Brutal New Episode. South Park tore into Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in the latest episode of the series. Firstly, I don't even understand why this article is news. The news that they're reporting is that South Park made an episode about Harry and Meghan. That's not news. I don't know what it's meant. Why does this piece exist in the first place? I don't know. The adult animation didn't hold back when depicting the couple, with viewers branding the episode, quote, brutal. Does not say where that quote came from, just sounds like the author of the article is calling it a brutal take. While they didn't specifically use their names, the male character is a red-headed prince and his wife wears the exact same outfit Meghan once wore in 2018. I mean, it's obvious that they're meant to be portraying Harry and Meghan even if they don't use their name, which is even more strange. Why not just use their names, Harry and Meghan? I don't know why they dodged around that. You would think for such free speech absolutists, they wouldn't feel the need to hide their takes on Harry and Meghan, but okay. In the episode titled The Worldwide Privacy Tour, the prince is promoting a book named Wah, which is a seeming reference to Harry's controversial memoir Spare, which was released last month. The couple are shown around South Park with the Meghan character stating, quote, "If we moved here, people would think we're really serious about wanting to be normal." Their arrival in South Park annoys the show's characters, with Kyle saying, quote, "They have this huge jet parked in front of my house, and they keep on wanting me to buy their book." Kyle also accuses the prince's wife of, quote, "bossing him around," adding, quote, "I'm sick of hearing about them. I can't get away from them. They are in my fucking face." The couple are then shown to participate in a disastrous TV interview with the prince carrying a sign that reads, quote, "We want privacy." The part that's very frustrating as well is that those two things are out of order from how they're presented in the episode. I don't think it really changes what the authors are trying to say, but it's just another sign of not wanting to actually portray what the episode was like. The part where Kyle says, "I'm sick of hearing about them, I can't get away from them," happens after the part where they go on TV with the sign saying "We want privacy." So like that part's just completely out of order. When the host asks the prince if he, quote, "hates journalists," he replies, quote, "That's right, we just want to be normal people. All this attention is so hard." That's also frustrating because that's not what happens in the episode. We watched it. When the journalist asks if he, quote, "hates journalists," the journalist then responds back to him saying, "So aren't you a journalist because you wrote this book about the royal family?" I can't remember the exact quote, but you can go watch it. It's my last episode. So this is a misrepresentation of the scene entirely. That is not what Harry says in response to that question. I don't know if they avoided it because they realized that in the episode, the interviewer looks stupid by claiming that Harry is a journalist for writing a memoir, but it's interesting. Why don't they report that accurately? When the host claims that his wife, quote, "does not want privacy," they walk off the show. What's interesting as well is they skipped over the whole part before they walk off the show where the interviewer calls Meghan a Instagram-loving bitch wife, which you would think might make it seem more sympathetic why they would walk off of the TV show, but of course they don't report that part of the episode because they know that looks misogynistic and shit. They then go on a "We Want Privacy" tour, and after contacting a branding manager, the prince is described as, quote, "royal prince, millionaire, world traveler, victim." Meanwhile, the branding manager describes the prince's wife as, quote, "sorority girl, actress, influencer, and victim." It's after this that the prince realizes he does not want to be a, quote, brand and says, quote, "trying to make ourselves into a brand just turned us into products. No more magazines and Netflix shows. We can just live a normal life." Can we talk about the fucking hypocrisy again of Parker and Stone making fun of Harry and Meghan for making a Netflix documentary about their own life and their own experiences when Parker and Stone make a television show for a living and actively admit in the podcast episode that we listened to that South Park is, quote, their brand. Does anyone want to comment on the fact that it's pretty hypocritical of Matt Stone and Trey Parker to make that critique of Harry and Meghan? Anybody? Anybody? Hello? That seems ripe for satire. However, when he leaves, Meghan decides to stay, so the prince exits alone. Following the broadcast, Meghan is said to have been left, quote, "upset and overwhelmed by its content." And this links to another article that they wrote on the same day called "Meghan Markle, quote, upset after being lampooned in, quote, brutal episode of South Park." You might notice that it is basically the same article that we just read. The only difference is that it links to a Spectator article, which has no source for where they got this idea that Meghan was like upset or annoyed by the episode at all. This is the Spectator article that all the other articles quote when they talk about Meghan and Harry being upset about the South Park episode. I had to make an account on the Spectator, so I hope you guys are happy with this. If you don't know what the Spectator is, it is a conservative magazine. I think it's one of the oldest running magazines in the UK. Meghan Markle upset at her depiction in South Park. The Duchess won't watch the episode mocking her and her husband, sources say. Harry and Meghan have yet to publicly speak about last week's episode of South Park, presumably because they don't have the staff left to formulate a press release. Right off the bat, what does that even mean? The writer is already assuming a lot right out the gate, implying that Harry and Meghan didn't respond to the South Park episode, not because it was a mediocre television episode that they don't really have anything to say about, and instead making it sound like they specifically didn't respond because they don't have enough staff to respond to it. And the implication being that they don't have enough staff left because they've alienated everybody around them. But California sources claim that Meghan has spent the last few days, quote, upset and overwhelmed about how she was portrayed. If you've read anything about Harry and Meghan over the last 3 years, you'd think the pair would be delighted with how South Park parodied them. Why would they be delighted by that episode? Nothing about the episode, I would say, was delightful for Harry and Meghan. The entire episode, titled The Worldwide Privacy Tour, gives them enough fodder to moan for a few more books, or Netflix documentaries, or Spotify podcasts. Notice the contradiction. At the very beginning of the article, it said that Harry and Meghan had not responded to the episode at all, which makes it sound like they really don't care about it that much. But in the next paragraph, they say that Harry and Meghan are going to use this episode as fodder for more and more bitching and complaining in their future projects. But why would the author think that's what Harry and Meghan are thinking if Harry and Meghan haven't responded in that way at all? Meghan can cry about how she is a victim of misogyny. She is a victim of misogyny. The episode itself was misogynistic. You can watch it. The only commentary they had on Meghan was basically, she's fame hungry, she has an Instagram, and she's a whore. And Harry can claim that this was all a narrative concocted by the big bad press. I mean, this narrative here about how they're reacting to South Park, that was concocted by the big bad press, obviously, because there's so many contradictions in the article already. In fairness, South Park didn't hold back. Meghan is described as a sorority girl, actress, influencer, victim by a brand manager during the episode. Later on, Harry has an awakening, realizing that their obsession with branding has made them, quote, turn ourselves into products. He claims that there will be, quote, no more magazines and Netflix shows. We can just live a normal life. However, when he leaves, Meghan decides to stay. So the prince exits alone. That's true, that did happen in the episode. I wouldn't say it's realistic at all because Harry has already criticized the idea of the media turning celebrities into products by concocting up tabloid narratives. Ironically, after the episode aired, rumors began circulating that Harry and Meghan were so frustrated with the show that they are now, quote, taking it out on each other. What is it with royal commentators using the word ironically wrong? What about this is ironic? At least their spousal disagreements are taking place in a 9-bedroom, 16-bathroom mansion. No awkward passings in the hallway for them. The media narrative constantly saying that Harry and Meghan are like on the brink of divorce or on the brink of separation. With that mediocre South Park episode, do you really think that's gonna break Harry and Meghan up? Do you honestly think after 6 years of marriage that this one South Park episode is really going to lead to the downfall of Harry and Meghan's relationship? I doubt it. Sources claim that Meghan, quote, is annoyed by South Park but refuses to watch it all. But for Meghan, this couldn't have come at a worse time. Notice we've had so many quotes from sources, but no explanation of who the sources are. Not even anything like a friend of Meghan or a staff member of the couple. Nothing even that concrete. It's just a source. But it's really frustrating because there are things in quotes and I want to know, where are those quotes actually coming from? It's easy to just say that some source said that, but I want a little bit more detail. How much can I trust this source? But for Meghan, this couldn't have come at a worse time. The Duchess is said to be obsessed with her half-sister's litigation. Meghan's half-sister Samantha Markle is suing her for defamation following their tell-all interview with Oprah Winfrey. Why do we give Samantha Markle any attention whatsoever? To say that Meghan Markle is obsessed with Samantha Markle is so detached from reality when Samantha Markle has literally marketed herself as just the leader of the anti-Meghan hate campaign and has nothing else to her name. Aside from all this, the pair have been made aware that nosy journalists, have been, quote, poking around Archewell and asking serious questions about what they actually contribute. This comes after the couple released a report tooting their own horn. So, firstly, You can ask questions about Harry and Meghan's role in Archewell, but it just seems like a little bit rich. Like, there's so many other companies and nonprofits that we can like really scrutinize how those companies are being run, but instead we're like focusing on how much Harry and Meghan are actually doing for Archewell. It's like, who cares? Like, there are CEOs out there that are making millions and millions of dollars doing fuck all. Like, at least they're the face of Archewell. Like, they do publicity for it. It's also strange that they say they released a report tooting their own horn. The report is an impact report for 2020 to 2022. It's pretty normal for a nonprofit to release an impact report just describing what the nonprofit is doing, what it's been able to accomplish over the years, where they've been investing funds into, how much growth they've had. Like, this is just bog standard nonprofit reports. Like, if I went to the website of literally any other nonprofit in the world, they would probably have something similar to this, where they talk about their successes and where they want to go in the future. Sources claim that the friction between the couple stemmed from the negative reaction after Harry's memoir Spare. Why would there be friction between a couple just because somebody's book didn't do as well? Which it did. I mean, it did great. Like, it's one of the best-selling nonfiction books of all time. But let's just put that aside. Why would Harry and Meghan have tension in their relationship just because there were some negative reviews of Spare? Like, think about if you have a partner, why would that cause any sort of friction for you? You would probably just want to comfort your partner if something just didn't go according to how they expected it to. Tell them to try again. You know, that you're there to support them. What about it would cause friction? The BBC published a review that called the Duke's memoir, quote, the longest angry drunk text ever sent, which is so bafflingly wrong. Oh, God. James Marriott from the Times of London called it a, quote, 400-page therapy session for Mystic Harry. Also wrong. Wrong. However much money it provided the couple, it wasn't enough for Meghan. What, it wasn't enough for Meghan? You're saying Meghan is this crazy supervillain that is so angered by the fact that Spare only broke every single nonfiction release record in like the history of books. And that made her so mad that she's embarrassed of Harry. It says, quote, who is said to be, quote, embarrassed by the whole thing and seeking support from mentors. Trouble in paradise? Like, even if we agreed that Meghan was, like, money hungry or whatever, I'm pretty sure she'd be satisfied by it being, like, one of the best-selling nonfiction books of all time. But I don't know. There you go. This article is terrible, and I don't know why is everyone taking this and running it as if this were true, when this is, like, one mediocre article that quotes all these sources and doesn't explain who any of those sources are. It's just completely unverifiable. But it doesn't matter if it's true or not, because all of these other mediocre people can go and run with it and claim it as fact because it suits their own cognitive bias. Then just a couple days later, we get this article from The Independent called, oh my God, they killed their credibility. South Park's Harry and Meghan parody proves one thing. The tagline reads, in the episode titled Worldwide Privacy Tour, a couple known as the Prince and Princess of Canada travel the world in search of their privacy, while giving sit-down television media interviews demanding their privacy. Already, it's a weird framing of the episode because, one, even within the episode, their traveling is not in search of privacy. Their traveling is meant to be a joke that they are on a worldwide privacy tour demanding privacy all around the world. Like, not looking for privacy, so that's already strange. And then it says television media interviews, plural, as if there's multiple television interviews in the episode. There's only one. An official spokesperson for Harry and Meghan has now confirmed that they are not intending to take legal action against Comedy Central's South Park for the as yet unactionable crime of ripping the absolute piss out of them. So by this time that this article was posted, Harry and Meghan had already explained that they were not going to sue South Park because why the hell would they? So The Independent had to kind of like scramble up a way to still write this story while also not spreading the misinformation that they were going to take legal action. Let's see how it panned out for them. In the week since the episode named the Worldwide Privacy Tour aired, it has been consistently speculated that legal action may have been forthcoming. But now a spokesperson has gone to the trouble to tell People magazine that, quote, it's all frankly nonsense. Totally baseless, boring reports. True, honestly true, baseless and boring. And not founded in any reality. Harry and Meghan are not explicitly named in the Worldwide Privacy Tour, in which a couple known as the Prince and Princess of Canada travel the world in search of their privacy while giving sit-down television media interviews demanding their privacy. References to them comes only obliquely through extreme physical resemblance, and in the Prince of Canada's case, the promotion of a book called Wah. The speculation has been assisted by apparent sources close to Harry and Meghan, one of whom told The Spectator magazine that Meghan had been, quote, upset and overwhelmed by said episode. It's also strange to even report that anymore when their actual team has come out and said they are not going to sue, that those were baseless and boring claims. To repeat this piece of, like, gossip when it conflicts with what their actual PR team is saying is a little bit strange. Naturally, we do not know who said source was or how close to Harry and Meghan they really are. A neat PR device long deployed by the royal family. How would you know, Independent? How would you know? That's a pretty common tactic from the royal family, huh? In which Prince Harry spent roughly 19 hours worth of TV interviews complaining about to CNN, ITV, and his own Netflix-backed documentary company. That whole last part of the sentence I'm so confused by. He spent 19 hours of TV complaining about the fact that there is a PR device from the royal family in which people report sources close to royal family members that might not be true just for media propaganda and spin. So, isn't that good? Isn't that good that Harry is complaining about this PR device that you're talking about? Shouldn't he complain about that? That sounds bad. And in fact, the use of this upset and overwhelmed quote, that would mean that it was probably fabricated as part of a PR ploy from the royal family. It sounds like the Independent should dig a little bit further into what they're actually saying in that paragraph. It is not entirely also clear whether said spokesperson intended to intimate quite so strongly that the Worldwide Privacy Tour itself was baseless and boring. It is on any measure anything but. It is absolutely hilarious. A brutalizing satire delivered with the kind of economy and precision that has kept South Park on air for fully 25 years. I wouldn't say it's absolutely hilarious. I have pointed out the parts in the episode that I think is funny, but I would say that the through line of the episode, it's a little bit too meandering. It's trying to say a bunch of different things, and most of those things are inaccurate and wrong. I would not say it's a brutalizing satire. All the parts about Harry and Meghan, I would say, are not satirical at all. You can watch my whole episode as to why I think that, but I just don't think that this summation of the episode as a brutalizing satire that's delivered with like economic precision is truly accurate to how the episode is. I think the episode has kind of a lot of different things that it does, and some of it does much better than other parts. In fact, I would say the A plot and the B plot, the A plot being with Kyle and his rebranding efforts, and the B plot with Harry and Meghan and just calling them Instagram-loving whores, are actually kind of in conflict with each other. They are not actually working together to deliver one precise satirical message. Other sources close to the couple have intimated to other outlets that they would hardly sue South Park, not least as being roasted by South Park lands them in exquisitely good company. Just ask Tom Cruise and Matt Damon. Pronounced, of course, Matt Damon. Matt Damon. I can't fully remember the Tom Cruise and Matt Damon episodes in their entirety, so I can't speak to whether those are better or worse than their portrayal of Harry and Meghan in terms of like being satirical. I know the Tom Cruise episode deals with Scientology. I think some of the sort of like no homo jokes in the Tom Cruise episode are stupid, but some of the more biting critiques of Scientology are more interesting. The Matt Damon stuff I really don't remember. I just remember the meme. So again, I can't say if that's actually satire or not. South Park's co-creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone were also behind puppet movie Team America World Police, which again is an actual satire. That is an actual satirical movie. Now, there are parts of Team America World Police that I think are not very good satire, namely like the sort of Asian racism of Kim Jong-il's character.
I'm so lonely, so lonely, so lonely inside real Rome.
I think that's bad, but like the movie as a whole was actually satire, so I'll give them that. In which a very long list of highly self-regarding Hollywood actors take it upon themselves to try and save the world for very little good reason beyond having begun to take themselves far too seriously, so it is not hugely difficult to see why it is that they should have alighted upon Harry and Meghan as potential targets. Team America World Police is like a critique on like the military industrial complex of America and like American foreign policy. And the Harry and Meghan episode is like Harry and Meghan are dumb. Like these are two completely different things. I don't like it when people try to conflate Trey Parker and Matt Stone's like good social commentary with like things that they've done that are not social commentary at all and are just like playing to the lowest common denominator. In one scene, it is pointed out to the Prince of Canada that having been paid a very large amount of money to write a book about the royal family, maybe he can't hate journalists as much as he says he does because he is one himself, which again, as I said before, doesn't make any sense. Writing a memoir does not make you a journalist. It doesn't mean that you can't criticize journalists who are not doing their due diligence in their reporting. It doesn't make you a hypocrite at all. The Prince and Princess of Canada walk out in disgust and end up setting up a new life in the house opposite Kyle in South Park, whereupon they goad him into disrespecting their privacy through ever more attention-seeking stunts on their front lawn, one of which is not easily forgotten. Which I think is a reference to the frostbitten penis part of the episode, but again, I wouldn't say that was super biting criticism. It was literally a scene of Harry wagging his dick in front of the camera and then walking away. It wasn't really even saying anything about the frostbitten penis gate of the whole of it all, you know? Of course, it's perfectly possible to be sympathetic towards Harry and Meghan, and a man who has had his life story written for him by hundreds, if not thousands of others, has earned every right to a full right of reply, however many books and hours of documentary he deems it takes. It's just so passive-aggressive sometimes, these writers, when they're like, Harry totally has the right to write books or be in documentaries and stuff like that, even when it's like hours and hours in tons and tons of pages. He has the right. It's like, okay, you clearly think that it's like self-indulgent or whatever, which again, you can feel that way, but all right, don't hide it in this like idea, oh yeah, he has the right to tell his story after thousands and thousands of people have already told it. And the right to tell your own story on your own terms and maintain a private life too is not a wholly unreasonable demand. True, but the question has always been, where do they go next? What do they do with the rest of their lives when they've opted out of the institution that, in their view, gave them a score to settle? Well, so what they were gonna do next was exactly the thing that everybody seems to be criticizing them for, which is making content. If you're saying like they have a right to like live their life and to be critical of how their story is being told, and then you criticize them telling their story, I mean, it just seems like they're never going to be able to win, you know? The problem with South Park getting their claws into them is not a small one. It makes it clear that they have turned themselves into a joke, both in their old home and their new one. They didn't turn themselves into a joke. That's not how it works. They're not making fun of themselves. South Park turned them into a joke. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, they're trying to blame Harry and Meghan for how the media reports on them or how South Park portrays them, but they don't have any control over that. That's on South Park. Oh God, thank God that's over. Some other hilariously bad journalism. This is from the New York Post. Again, spreading misinformation about this idea that Harry and Meghan were going to threaten lawsuits against South Park. They wrote this article called "South Park Creators Break Silence on Lawsuit Threats After Harry and Meghan Episode." South Park creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone have broken their silence amid the show's recent mocking of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. The Comedy Central writers appeared on Wednesday's Basic podcast to discuss the cartoon's legacy and many uproars over the years, just a week after bashing the ex-royals. Now, what I want to say is I listened to that entire podcast episode. There are numerous clips of it in my last episode. At no point in the episode do they specifically talk about Harry and Meghan, or that episode in particular. So this article is just full on clickbait. They're claiming that they're like breaking their silence as if they're like clapping back against Harry and Meghan or responding to the idea that Harry and Meghan were going to sue them, which is not the case. There's nothing in that episode that hints of that at all. What is in that episode, and which I clipped multiple examples of, is that Trey Parker and Matt Stone are very bad at taking the time to write a cohesive plot for their show in a reasonable amount of time so that they can think about the messages that they are putting into their show. And in fact, they've made pretty clear in that episode that they do not want to learn and grow and change from how they have done the show since they were in their early 20s. That they have just done it the same way, where they just have 6 days to throw a bunch of bullshit together and hope that it comes with a cohesive message at the end. And I would argue that sometimes maybe that works, but a lot of times, like in the Harry and Meghan episode, it really does not. So, I mean, if you want to go and listen to the entire podcast and check me up on it, I think it makes Trey Parker and Matt Stone come across pretty badly, honestly. Worse than I think Harry and Meghan do in this whole debacle. The showrunners ignited a firestorm of controversy after parodying a privacy-seeking ex-royal couple from Canada in the February 15th episode titled The Worldwide Privacy Tour. The cartoon characters, who claim to want to stay out of the spotlight but instead go on various talk shows, bore a likeness to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, who are famously non-private. What do you mean famously non-private? What does that even mean? Like, there's no such thing as a private and a non-private person, right? Everybody has things that they keep private and things that they show to the public, because you have to go out in public when you live in a society. To say they are famously non-private, what the fuck does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. They are public figures, yes. That doesn't mean that they don't have a right to privacy like any other human being on the planet. As demonstrated by their Netflix series and Harry's memoir, Spare. Markle, 41, was said to be, quote, upset and overwhelmed by the show amid reports she and Harry, 38, could sue South Park over the characters who resembled them, which again, all of that probably fake news. However, a source told The Spectator that despite being hurt, the couple was, quote, annoyed by South Park and refuses to watch it at all. Which, okay, again, probably not true, but even if it is true, like, they have a right not to watch South Park. It goes back to that quote from Paris Hilton's memoir where she's like, yeah, Matt Parker thinks that I'm the fucked up one because I don't want to watch an episode in which my dog murders herself. Yeah, I'm the fucked up one, sure. Their rep told the Post on Tuesday that Harry and Meghan thought the episode was, quote, all frankly nonsense, totally baseless and boring, and denied they would be suing the comedy series. But the royal racket was just a blip on the radar for Stone, 51, and Parker, 53, who have been known to ruffle feathers. They are actually a lot older than I thought they were. I thought they were in their 40s. Oh man, you guys. All right, Parker and Stone are just old fucking men. I got it now. They're just old men. That's why they're not funny. While the pair didn't address Meghan and Harry directly, the animators said on Wednesday that much of their work has led them, quote, getting sued over the course of the animated show's run. In the episode, they are not responding to this idea of Harry and Meghan suing them. They are talking about how they have gotten sued in the past, mostly by like the Church of Scientology, but at no point in the episode are they like saying that they're worried that Harry and Meghan are going to sue them or anything. The Post has reached out to Stone and Parker for comment. In the podcast, they spoke directly about the various lawsuits that had been brought down upon them by celebs they teased. And then again, the article talks about what they actually talked about, that the Church of Scientology mostly sued them because they are very litigious. And that's it. What a nothing article. Absolutely nothing of an article. Here's another example from Yahoo, but it's actually coming from the Evening Standard, entitled "South Park Show Creators Break Silence on Backlash After Episode Mocking Harry and Meghan." South Park creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker have addressed the controversy surrounding the show following its mocking of Harry and Meghan. Note that these are put into one sentence, but it's a little bit sneaky because these two things are implying that they're related, but they're actually not. Yes, they have addressed the controversy of South Park as a whole, and they did that after they mocked Harry and Meghan, but they weren't addressing the controversy from the episode mocking and Harry and Meghan, which is what this sentence is implying happened. South Park has built up quite a reputation for stirring up controversy with its episodic content since its debut in 1998. Stone, 51, and Parker, 53, admitted that the backlash they've received as they've poked fun on the show gets us going, and criticism has mainly come from right-wing supporters. They do talk about that in the episode. They never say that, like, Harry and Meghan supporters are right-wing supporters that are coming after them. They don't say that it gets them going, backlash specifically from the Harry and Meghan episode. They just want to imply that by putting these two ideas in the same article. Just boring, boring journalism. But now it's time for something fun.
Whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. I said certified freaks. 7 days a week. Wet ass P-word. Make that pull-out game weak.
All right, it's Ben Shapiro time. If you don't know who Ben Shapiro is a American right-wing commentator. He works for the Daily Wire, which is a right-wing media organization. Some other notable Daily Wire commentators are Candace Owens and Matt Walsh, both of whom are extremely right-wing. Ben Shapiro is like a walking meme within like the online political sphere because he loves to do like these commentaries on pop culture things and basically claim that they're like so woke and that their wokeness is going to lead to the decline of Western civilization. So I'm strapping in. All right, Benny boy, let's go.
So, things that I like. Let us begin with one of the great episodes of South Park ever. So, South Park is a show that I have enjoyed, I would say, on an infrequent basis from time to time. It's not like a regular watch for me, but there are certain episodes that are just classics. And they did, in fact, release a classic this week. It's centered on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and their consistent attempts to be private by constantly seeking attention.
What I find so interesting is that Ben Shapiro is like, I don't really like watch South Park that much or whatever, but like this episode goes down as like one of the great classics of South Park. It's like, if you're gonna compare for me like Scott Tenorman Must Die, or This Is What Scientologists Actually Believe, or the Mormon episodes, or the World of Warcraft episodes, or any of those classic South Park episodes, the Harry and Meghan episode is like not it. Like, even if you're a diehard South Park fan, it doesn't even have like some of the parts of South Park that make it so funny. Like, there's no Cartman in the episode really. There's not really much of the kids at all. It's mostly like Butters and Kyle for the most part, which like they can be funny in some of their standalone episodes, but I wouldn't say that they're like super funny characters just to like follow in an A-plot. And like two, the actual like critiques of Harry and Meghan are not really well thought out at all. So again, I just wouldn't say that it's like a classic episode of South Park. I think there are so many better scenes and episodes of South Park that you could point to and say, that's like one of the greats. The next part is literally just Ben Shapiro watching the scene of the journalist interviewing Harry and Meghan on Good Morning Canada in the episode. What's his take on that scene?
And they then proceed to take a jet around the United States and around the world, actually, looking for privacy on what they call their worldwide privacy tour, complete with song. It is... And these folks are actually, I would say they're beyond parody, but clearly they're not. South Park did an amazing job on that. There are actual rumors, by the way, that Harry and Meghan wanted to sue the creators of South Park.
Those are rumors. Those are rumors. Why are you even mentioning it? Again, they just know that it's outrage marketing, right? Like, they know that it's going to outrage people if they think that Harry and Meghan are like anti-free speech and they're going to go after South Park and take down the free speech. But it defies all logic and reasoning to think that that would be their response. They've never responded that way to any other satirical or comedy bit that uses their likeness or their names, even if it's like crass and boring and dumb. They've never gone after people for making those kind of jokes.
There are actual rumors that came out to that effect, which would be just a perfect example of the so-called Streisand effect. The Streisand effect is named after Barbara Streisand, the famed singer, because there was a point a couple of decades back when there was an aerial photograph taken of the California coast, and nobody had ever seen this photograph. It was in a public place, but nobody ever had seen it. And this aerial photograph contained a picture of Barbara Streisand's home. It wasn't labeled or anything. And so Barbara Streisand freaked out, and she threatened to sue the photographer unless he took down the photo. And he was like, I'm not taking down the photo. It's a picture of the coastline. Why would I take down the photo? But because she sued him, it ended up becoming a very popular photo, and millions of people saw it.
I love how Ben Shapiro took so much time out of my life to explain what the Streisand effect was, just so that he could prove with his own story that would not be a case of the Streisand effect. The Streisand effect is when a celebrity wants to hide something, and by hiding or suppressing that thing, they make it more of a big deal. And then, therefore, more people catch eyes on the story or the thing than previously would have happened. South Park is a TV show. It already gets millions of viewers. Millions and millions of people have already watched the episode of South Park. So this would not be an example if they sued South Park for defamation or whatever the fuck they think that they would sue them for. That would not be an example of the Streisand effect, because they wouldn't be trying to cover up some like secret. Like, it's an episode of a TV show that millions of people watch. Like, they obviously weren't going to be able to like hide its existence through a lawsuit. So it's just like, it's not an example of the Streisand effect in any way. A better example of like the Streisand effect that's not Barbara Streisand is when Beyonce tried to hide all of those ugly photos of her from her tour where she's like grunting and making like ugly faces. She didn't want those to be like public, and so she like tried to suppress them, and then the Streisand effect kicked in where people were like, oh, we want to see the ugly photos of Beyonce. That's a much better example.
This is the same sort of thing. The fact that this was even discussed, like suing South Park over this, is amazing.
We actually don't know that took place. So yes, maybe it would be funny if it happened, but we have no evidence that it happened.
Representative said, it's all frankly nonsense, totally baseless, boring reports. But apparently, the response followed days of articles noting that the Duchess of Sussex was distinctly unhappy about Matt Stone and Trey Parker's depiction of the couple. The Spectator had claimed she was upset and overwhelmed by the show and annoyed by South Park, but refuses to watch it all, despite it being unclear who its source was. That, by the way, is hysterically funny. She's upset and overwhelmed by the show. Now, so one of the things in the show that is so devastating is that it points out that Harry and Meghan are claiming victimhood and are some of the least victimized people on the planet.
And this is why I emphasized in my last episode that South Park is actively harming victims with their argument that everybody is branding themselves as victims. Just because someone that has privilege in certain areas, like financial privilege or fame or anything, and yet is saying, I was the victim of something, doesn't mean that they are not a victim. You can both be rich and famous and the victim of something. Like if Meghan said that she was like the victim of SA or something, not that she is, but like if she said she was the victim of like SA, yes, she still has tons of money and fame and power, but it doesn't mean that she's not a victim. And what Harry and Meghan are saying in all the media that they put out there, they are saying we were the victim of racism. We were the victim of press that was willing to use racist dog whistles in their reporting to drum up a base of racist hate and harassment. And that harassment was coming directly to them in the form of death threats, in the form of suspicious packages, in the form of active threats against their life. They were the victims of that. So you can say they're the least victimized people on the planet. You just mean that they're very privileged people. But that doesn't mean that they are not victims.
The whole episode is about how one of the characters in South Park goes to an image consultant to remake his image as a school child. And Harry and Meghan have already gone to the image consultant. And the end of every image consultant's pitch for what your new brand should be is victim. So for the princess, it's stuff like First Lady Annoyer, victim. For the prince, it's like Prince, victim. And so when they claim victimhood, when she says, oh my God, I'm so upset and overwhelmed by South Park.
That's the other thing that's messed up about this analysis. Just saying that you're upset or overwhelmed by something doesn't mean that you're saying you're a victim, right? She might, maybe the episode did hurt her feelings, okay? We don't have any evidence that that's true, that she actually said that or whatever. But let's say, okay, she didn't like it. She thought that it was rude to her. She didn't appreciate it. That's all right. Like she's allowed to say I'm upset by this portrayal of me, right? That doesn't make her a victim. She's not claiming I'm the victim of South Park just because she said she's upset by it. That she's not claiming victimhood. What he's conflating here is Harry and Meghan say they are the victims of stalking, harassment, misinformation campaigns, disinformation campaigns, smear campaigns, hate campaigns against them, which is true, and they are the victims of that, and conflating that with Meghan doesn't like this episode and how it portrays her, which is her right, because they basically portrayed her as an Instagram-loving bitch that has been conniving behind the scenes since birth to, I don't know, like climb to the top of the stupid, spoiled whore ladder. I don't even know what they were trying to say about that. So again, she has the right to be upset by that, but she's not saying that she's a victim. She's saying she's a victim in other ways, but not because of the South Park episode.
All you had to do was go and live your life and nobody would care. Instead, you decided that you were going to go and sign a deal with Spotify and a deal with Netflix.
You can live a normal life and go sign a deal with Spotify and Netflix. Like they are trying to go live their normal life. They're trying to get jobs. And then because they get a job, everybody's like, no, not like that. You're not allowed to have a platform.
And that you're, again, the very notion that Meghan Markle married into the royal family because she was seeking a private life with the man she loved is absurd.
You can be a public figure and also want privacy. Ben Shapiro should totally understand this. He's not showing us every single thing in his private life just because he's on the Daily Wire. Like, why should Meghan Markle want to do that too? What's also hilarious as well is that Ben Shapiro's the type of commentator that would be against deplatforming, but he's basically arguing that Harry and Meghan should be deplatformed, that they don't deserve a platform on Netflix or on Spotify or whatever, that they should just go away. So he's advocating for deplatforming them, but they haven't done anything wrong. So to me, there's no reason for them to be deplatformed. It's free speech, y'all.
As I pointed out, I mean, I did like a full review of Harry's silly book. And, like in the book, he talks about his dating history with Meghan. On like their fourth date, he invited her to spend a week in Africa with him. And she's like, sure. And he's like, she didn't know who I was. She didn't Google me. Uh-huh. She literally covered Kate Middleton's wedding on her Instagram page.
Oh, wait. There was a lot going on there. Okay. All right. You don't have to go to Botswana on your date. I don't know what he was implying with that. Like, that was weird for them to go to Botswana on their fourth date. I mean, it worked out. They're married, so... I mean, clearly it worked. Maybe Harry's got more game than you thought. 2, when they say in the documentary and in Spare that Meghan didn't know who Harry was, they didn't mean literally like Meghan has never heard of Prince Harry before in her life. That's not what they meant. They meant she didn't know like all the deep lore about the royal family and every single family member and every single part of what it meant to be in the royal family and every piece of protocol, every like intrapersonal relationship within the family. That's what they mean when they say that she didn't Google him. You know, like obviously it wasn't like she walked into her first date with Harry and was like, does the UK have a royal family? I didn't know. Like, obviously not.
So, yeah, I'm pretty sure she knew who you were, and I'm pretty sure that you might be married now because she knew who you were. As it turns out, people like Prince Harry.
It also doesn't make any sense because what we know from both the documentary and in Spare is that Harry is the one that reached out first to ask about Meghan. Meghan didn't reach out to Harry. So this idea of like, oh, she was like manipulative and she looked him up. She knew exactly who he was and she spent all that time in Botswana just to like get to him so that she could marry into royalty. Not realistic at all with what we've seen. Harry is the one that was interested in Meghan first, not the other way around.
People like Prince Harry, meaning a habitual, approaching middle-aged drug user and alcoholic who can't hold down a steady job, don't tend to land B-list actresses. This is a general rule, unless they are princes. If they are princes, it seems to help the deal a little bit.
From reading Spare, which Ben Shapiro is claiming that he read Spare and did a review on it, which I mean, he probably did make a video on it. I doubt that he actually read the book in good faith. In the book, by the time that Harry and Meghan met, I don't think that Harry was like a habitual drug addict, alcoholic, or whatever. I don't think he was in a great place in his life right after returning from the war, but in that part of the book, it doesn't sound like he was like in a deep, horrible place when he met Meghan. To make it sound like he was this guy that like nobody would want to be with. He was approaching middle age as well, like as if that means anything, like. And he's also kind of like implying with this that Meghan is out of Harry's league, which I think Harry would agree with based on Spare. I guess you're right. I don't know. Oh God, thank God we're done with that. Now we're watching Joe Rogan's take on the South Park episode. Joe Rogan is a frustrating character in the online political discourse space. He is very easily swayed by whoever he is talking to. He's very much a centrist. He tries to like see all perspectives, but like as we saw with South Park, when you try to like see all perspectives, it means that sometimes you're very easily manipulated into believing like right-wing conspiracy. And Joe Rogan has been sucked down that rabbit hole before, like all of his anti-vax stuff during COVID. So I don't have pretty high expectations for a nuanced take on the Harry and Meghan situation. Let's go.
Too. I like other stuff. I like stuff.
It's nice to get alone.
Some of the stuff I like is dumb.
Yeah.
I like South Park.
Yeah.
I like
South Park
things.
is the
South Park rules. They fucking rule.
Did you see what they just did?
What'd they do?
They went at Harry. They went at Harry and Meghan.
She's suing
And they're
him.
trying to sue him. It's like, don't
What are you?
fucking
You're suing South Park?
kick that
Really?
hornet's nest.
Misinformation. Right off the bat, this idea that Harry and Meghan were suing South Park is just regurgitated by these dude bros that are not plugged into the royal family matrix, totally uncritically, not stopping to think about, wait a minute, that makes no goddamn sense, because why would they sue South Park for just a mediocre portrayal of them? There's nothing there for them to sue over. Like, they're pretty smart. They know the concept of free speech.
Really?
Oh my god, yeah. You're just gonna
Really?
empower them to go harder.
Pretty brilliant episode.
Not suing, just mad. Not
Just
suing.
mad.
Oh, okay.
Oh, but they
Which-
made an official statement that we are angry.
Yeah, it just says, yeah.
Which was
we're not
exactly-
suing.
They did not really make an official statement saying that they were angry. There were rumors from the Spectator article that they were upset by the episode, but we don't actually know that to be true. The only thing that we know is that they're not going to sue South Park and that the rumor mill is baseless and boring.
What the
She's
episode
very mad.
was.
Oh, okay.
It's exactly what they were making fun of him for.
She'll
Yeah,
sit
they
there and
nailed
watch
it.
it, and she's mad, but
Well, you know what's going on.
So
Someone wanted a lot of attention, and now they got it. That was the
No, they didn't want attention and now they got it. Like, twisting it all around. They didn't ask South Park to be misogynistic against Meghan or to like say these bullshit things and just regurgitate what the tabloids were saying. They didn't ask for that. They put out their content. They put out what they want to put out. That is not asking for attention. It's not asking to be mocked and degraded and ridiculed on South Park. Just completely getting it twisted.
The whole episode.
That was the app.
Yeah.
That was the premise.
Is that what it was? Like, we want privacy, and they keep going on every magazine.
Yeah. We're on our privacy tour.
Yeah, the Babylon Bee went after him too.
The Babylon Bee is a far-right humorist website. It's meant to be like a satirical news website for conservatives and far-right people. They try to pitch themselves as like The Onion, but they're not funny. I would not take the Babylon Bee's take on Harry and Meghan either, just so you know.
It's just
I love how they just couldn't picture it. We just want to be regular people. And they're like, wait, no, job? No way.
yeah, go work
I
at a
meant
supermarket.
play pretend regular
Yeah, be
people.
a-
Don't you hate it when people are like, get a job? And like the only job that they'll be satisfied with somebody getting is like working as a cashier. That's the only real job that exists, apparently. The irony of Joe Rogan and all of his dude bros on set telling Harry and Meghan to get real jobs when they literally do exactly what Meghan was doing. They have a podcast. Joe Rogan, do you have a real job? Like, Harry and Meghan are doing nothing different than what every other person in the media does. They make podcasts and videos just like everybody else that seems to be criticizing them for not having a real job.
Regular person.
Yeah.
Go get a job in an office. That would be an intense level of white guilt.
If they just start
Be
working
like,
as
fuck, I'm British royalty.
Yeah.
Like, damn, we did some bad stuff.
She's happy.
You know what? That's fair. We should think about how the monarchy has fucked over a lot of people all throughout the globe. I don't expect these guys on Joe Rogan to have read Spare, but Harry does mention in Spare that he has worked. Like, he's done manual labor before. He's worked in Africa. He's worked in Australia. Like, he's done things with his hands. Not as an actual job, but like, it's not like Harry has been completely divorced from like normal life. Harry also was a soldier. He was in active combat, and he's described working with normal people and being treated as a normal person and enjoying that, liking not being royal and seeing what normal life is like. But again, people just talk about things they don't know about. It's fine.
And then the wife convinces you to leave the royal family.
No. Meghan did not convince Harry to leave the royal family. Harry had plenty of reasons growing up to despise what his future job as the Spare was going to be and wanting to leave that. Pretty much as soon as he had an opportunity to leave, he fucking took it because he recognized that it was abusive and no way to live. Meghan didn't have to convince him of that at all. I think Harry was already coming to that conclusion independently. And Meghan was coming to that conclusion independently, and they loved each other, so they made that decision together. And two, they also didn't really leave the royal family, like, of their own accord. And two, Meghan wasn't even involved in any of the negotiations about how they were going to leave the royal family. She was absent at the Sandringham conversation, where they talked about all of the options of leaving. She was absent from a lot of the conversations that Harry had with his father, with different courtiers within the institution, with his brother. Like, Meghan wasn't involved in most of the conversations about how they were going to step back. So to say that, like, Meghan was the cause of all that, just regurgitating the same bullshit that the media is saying.
Like, I'm out. I don't need you guys. Which is crazy, because don't you just get free money?
Dude,
Like,
give me my
what-
allowance,
What
though.
do you get when you're a royal?
You get a stipend.
You get a
I mean, yes, the royal family does get free money. And isn't it interesting that they turned all of that down because the situation they were in was such a fucking nightmare. Isn't that strange? It's almost like the royal family is toxic, and that's why they left. Not because of Meghan's, like, crazy psycho ambitions.
Get a bunch of cash.
I'm sure it's
You
a
spend
million
on
a
anything you
month.
want?
Yeah, what about the countesses? Do they get paid?
Notice as well, Joe Rogan said, oh, you can get anything you want. This is the brain melt that like royal family propaganda has put into people's heads. The way that Harry describes being in the royal family, it is not everything your heart desires you get. You get waited on hand and foot. You can have anything you want. You can do anything you want. It's in fact the complete opposite. It's you can't go anywhere you want. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't wear this. You can't wear that. It's way, way, way more restrictive. And even in private is that sense of strictness and restrictions on what you can say or do. On top of that, the Machiavellian machinations of the entire institution, pitting people against each other in the media and manipulating the media to like fight it out amongst different royals, makes it even more toxic. So no, the entire system is not you get a bunch of money and do whatever you want. It's you get a bunch of money, but you can never step out of line. You can never actually do what you actually want to do, because as soon as you start to exert some control over your own life, then you've gone rogue. And then we have to punish you and smear you and degrade you and destroy you because it's a threat to the monarchy.
Yeah, all of them.
That's a good question, right? Like, what's the chart?
How far down do you go before you're like, you don't get a check
What do you
anymore?
think you get if you're a prince? What do you think a prince gets?
Oh, it's all
your
jewels
bills
and
paid?
rubies
I
and
bet
shit.
publicly.
No, they don't get jewels and rubies and shit. All of that stuff is basically on public display for tourists to go ogle at. All the royal jewels, all the stuff, or it's in storage. They don't just have it laying about their house. Again, people might think that that's the life of the royal family, but it's really not. They are mascots that are not in control of their life at all. Harry and Meghan could barely get a tiara for their wedding without it being all sorts of bureaucratic bullshit that got spun in the tabloids to denigrate their character. So it's not like they're swimming like Scrooge McDuck through a pile of rubies and diamonds every day.
I bet publicly their salary's nothing.
Right.
What they show, but then, they
It's
have
all-
fucking
Well, there has to be
jewels.
some. They do get paid something, though, right?
Yeah.
That they
Then I
show.
saw one episode of that dumb Crown show, and it was the Queen bitching about how her fucking private yacht is too old, and they're gonna.
That's funny, and that's absolutely true, and we should call out the Queen for being that out of touch with reality. I think the Joe Rogan crowd here is under the impression that Harry and Meghan are still receiving money from the taxpayers or from the royal family. They are not. They were cut off completely from any of the finances related to the royal family, which is financial abuse. And I'm not going to get into how Charles has been financially abusive to his sons, but it is the opposite of what these guys expect, right? They expect that there is just a vault of money that everybody in the royal family can just grab from, and they get anything that they want, and they can just snap their fingers and order a Diet Coke whenever they want. And that's just not how they're treated in the royal family. They're actually treated pretty badly by everybody in the institution so that they stay in line, so they don't step out and try to assert any sort of independence. So Harry and Meghan have actually been punished for trying to just live the life that they want to live with being financially cut off, requiring them to take jobs, but then when they actually get jobs, people are mad at them because those jobs are making content, even though the people that are typically mad about that also make content.
You're gonna have to do renovations.
She's the
Like,
queen.
turn this the fuck off. Why do you care about this?
gotta
I got in a
Nice
fight
job.
with my girlfriend about that show. I was watching. I started saying "up the rah" the whole time. I was like, "I'm fucking Irish. Fuck these people." And she made me get a 23andMe. She was like, "You're not even Irish." So I just did it yesterday. Before I flew down here, I put on Braveheart. I was like, "Look at this shit, dude."
Braveheart is Scotland, you fucking idiot. Now we're just getting into Joe Rogan rambling about like the IRA and stuff like that. We're done. We're done. I don't think they're going to talk about Harry and Meghan again. Thank goodness, because I don't think I could take more of that. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed going down the rabbit hole with me today. And before we go, I have some updates. Number one, like I said at the beginning, I have a brand new TikTok. It's Catella Bubble, same as here. I've been posting some more short form content there. I am a complete TikTok newbie, so go easy on me if you do follow me over there. But so far, it has been so much fun, so I'm excited excited how it's going, and go check it out. Number 2, my next long-form project is going to be about child stardom. I want to look at the history of children in the media spotlight and how it has changed over time. But this project is going to be a long one, probably going to require a lot of research and editing. So I can't really exactly say when it's going to come out because, number 3, I'm going on vacation for like a month. I'm actually going to be in the UK and also in Italy. And after that, I'm going to be starting a new job. So I don't really know how much time it's going to take for me to adjust to that new job. But all of this to say, if you want to continue seeing content from me, please, please, please check out my TikTok. I'll also probably be putting some of it on YouTube here, but probably not all of it. So if you want to catch everything, you gotta go follow me. And you'll probably get to see it before everybody else. So that's a bonus. Anyway, have a great day. I'll see you guys soon and bye.
But then we moved the problem was we moved to LA and we did, and then the only way to be punk rock in LA is to be a Republican. Because it's the only way, you're in a party, the only way is to be like, I think George Bush is awesome. Everyone's like, what? Just like, and that really, it's amazing.
We got this reputation. There was this book that came out called South Park Conservatives.
Right.
Where, and it was a label, I think, originally given by Andrew Sullivan. To the show, and I think there is a little bit of like libertarianism.
Is he your number one fan? There's some great quote about it.
Yeah, he's a big fan, and like he's written some really cool stuff about the show and Team America, the movie. But I think that some of we did grow up in Colorado, which is kind of a Republican state, but it's more of a libertarian kind of like live and let live kind of attitude.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some of that seeps through in the work